During 2008, Portsmouth, Ohio attorney Frank Gerlach gave a talk on what poisoned nuclear workers can expect from government compensation and medical help. Gerlach represents sick workers. His talk was sponsored by the Portsmouth Piketon Residents for Environmental Safety and Security.
My joy has been talking to the people who actually work there and to admire what they did under the circumstances. They were not told of the dangers, but they were interested in America being strong. They had all the patriotic such that gave them the guts to be out there, and they would believe the people and say, this won't hurt you. You scrape it off the lunch table, it won't hurt you. So, and then as I each hear another story, I keep piecing together more of the facts and so forth. And one of the interesting things that I found that, of course, a lot of people had skin cancers out there. They deny there's anything out there that caused skin cancer for years. And then one day, the employee saw this big blob coming down the hall or so forth, and it kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. This is the story that's told to me. So he ran over and grabbed a glass jar, scooped up a little bit of it and sealed it up, sent it to the lab. It was arsenic. Where did arsenic come from? Paducah. Paducah. In order to enrich the uranium, they thought if they added a little arsenic, you know, it's like cooking something, just add a little arsenic, the enrichment level would be increased. I think management must have known about this, but obviously the workers were never told about it. So there's a lot of things out there that you don't know about. There's a lot of digging and use common sense when you're trying to work up your cases. Okay. Now, so let's talk about Part B. If you're a Part B person, that is three things: cancer, chronic beryllium disease, or silicosis. Silicosis is like sand. They're like sandblasting. You get it from that, or other type things. And then beryllium, chronic beryllium disease, you can be sensitive to it, but that wouldn't get you any money. To get the money, you have chronic beryllium disease. That's where you get nodules in your lungs and things of this nature. And sometimes you have several different things going on in your body at the same time that you don't want to have. And then cancers. Certain cancers, if you work there 250 working days, roughly a year, working days, and you have a certain cancer, let's just say example, lung cancer, you should have no problem getting your claim approved. The problem is they're going to challenge you that you work there 250 working days. The rules are different from the employees who worked for the plant, who actually worked for the plant, versus those who are contractors. So if your relatives and so forth are contractors, they have passed a rules and regulations by the Department of Labor that changes the standard in which they use. As an example, I had a person under Part B who had like 20 skin cancers, and he had 41.2% rate. You have to get to 50% before you collect any money. Okay. Then he got two more. So, oh, maybe. So they go have him redone by dose reconstruction, NIOSH, and it comes back 6.5%. Says, you fellas put the decimal point in the wrong place or something? No, no, no. Oh, there's been this regulation. So we're going to treat those who worked at the plant as a contractor, building it, repairing it, and removing all the stuff that blows up or up there and so forth. We're going to treat you differently than if you were at the regular plant. Yeah. So that's one of the frustrations that you may have. The other problem is in trying to get this 250 working days, you have to prove, number one, that if you're a contractor, working for a contractor, that the contractor had a contract with the Department of Energy for this, or a subcontractor of that person and so forth. Sometimes that's more difficult on what you think. Then you have to prove that you actually worked there. And one of the people was here recently. If you're the last man living, you can't prove it, because you have to have like a co-worker say, yes, I saw him, he worked out there, we worked side by side, and that'd be verification. So even though you can prove, yes, I worked for a subcontractor out there, and they'll agree, oh yeah, you did. But you have to prove that he actually was on the job site. Now, under Part E, you can have any doctor, your family doctor or anyone else, help you out in proving you have a medical condition. Then you have to prove you got that medical condition out of the plant. This is where the documentation that you were actually there. Then you have to tell them what specific items of toxic substances were you exposed to that caused this. Well, this is a secret plant. They didn't tell you what's in that secret processed gas or any of those type of things. They didn't tell you it had plutonium. They didn't tell you it had all these other things, that they were recycling things from Gaddafi and so forth out of that plant and so forth. So it's fairly interesting. So you're around the regular doctors that can help you out in this. So you have a lung problem. Well, you're going to have to prove a particular substance out there. You can't say, here's a list, it's 4 pages long or 20 pages long. I was exposed to all those things. Well, they're not going to pay much attention to you. I say, what building do you work in? And that building doesn't show that's there. So you don't get it. Even though every place else you walked had the same arsenic all over the place. And I got one of those going on now. I just can't believe it. Fella has got a problem of proving this, because they have what you'll see quoted sometimes, SEM, site exposures matrix, and they have it sometimes for if you have chronic COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. They can plug that in and they'll say, yes, these substances cause it, and it can say, yes, these were in buildings 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, or so forth. They can plug it in where they just put skin cancer. Well, they haven't finally figured out that arsenic was causing all the skin cancer, so it'll spit out there weren't any places that you could be exposed to it. So I'm battling one of those at the present time. Now, when we talk about toxic substances, it includes radiation. One time I wrote and said, includes the radiation. I said, no, radiation is not the toxic substance. But the law and the definitions definitely say it's a combination of radiation and toxic substances. And you talk about the various solvents that are out there, trichloroethylene and everything, and you hear about these people dipping all this stuff in very hot liquids to clean it and so forth, and breathing all that in and such. And I call it a witch's brew out there. But you have to prove which of those witch's brew caused your problem, or just one or two. Now, how do you get any money on Part E? First of all, the wonderful thing about Part B and E, if you're granted it, you get a little card that says, we're going to pay all your medical bills. Well, good luck. That's what they say. That they'll pay all your medical bills. So please try to get the benefits that you got coming to you, Part B and E. Now, how do you get money out of Part E? If you're lucky enough to say, yes, you had this lung condition, yes, it was due to the exposures, then you get the card. To get any money, then you have to have someone do an impairment rating of the whole body. But for every 1%, it's worth $2,500. The total amount is $250,000. That's $250,000. And there are certain amounts that you get for cancer, and it's how it impairs your whole body. But anyway, once you go through this and you get your check, I think you'll think, well, yes, it's worth it, especially if you can get it for one of your loved ones, especially if they're still living, to do this. Now, how do they beat you out of Part E this morning? Number one, if the Part B, there's a whole list. You go to the widow and the widowed children and about that. It keeps going on down a list. So you probably will be able to collect if you're a relative, if you can win. Part E is different. Part E, if it's the employee, no problem. If it's the widow, no problem. Then they cut it off at children under the age of 18 or going to college. You have to go right from high school and go through college. Anyway, and then the other one would be if the person could not be self-supporting, either physically or mentally, that person can collect. So why is this important? Time is important to process it as quick as you can, because if the widow dies and there's no children under age 18, the government doesn't have to pay. Government doesn't have to pay. So we encourage you to do that. Do not get discouraged. I think they rely on you getting discouraged or say, I'm not going to do this anymore, and so forth. So keep after it.